I had worked the first time with Dick even before I was a model. I don't even remember how it came about, but he tested me for Revlon and I remember going just because I wanted to meet him, but I knew in my heart that I didn't want to work. I had this prejudice, like I guess a lot of people, that I didn't want to be a model. I was young. I must have been 18 or 19, and I thought that I was just going to be a journalist. That sounded much more intelligent. So then I haven't seen him for a long time. And I haven't heard anything from the sitting, so I can't say that I turned Revlon down. I think they didn't wanted me either. And 10 years later, because I really became a model at 28, and I first did a series of photos with Bruce Weber and for Vogue, and then I was sent to see Bill King. And then when Alex Lieberman saw my photo, he immediately sent me to Avedon, who knew me. He said, well, I photographed her 10 years ago, and nobody thought it was anything. And then I started going with him all the time, because by then, once Avedon photographed you, you got all the cover of Vogue, and you become what they call today a supermodel. So it was 81, I think, when I started working consistently as a model, mostly with Dick at the beginning. Well, I was very lucky to work with Dick because beyond his enormous talent as a photographer, he's very articulated. So he explained to me what a model was supposed to do. And I was able to shed all my prejudice against modeling and understood through him what a fantastic job it is. Especially with him, there is, I would say, very little difference with acting. I think what you have to do as a model is to exude a feeling. The fact that you're beautiful, it's a given. They wouldn't hire you. I mean, it sounds awfully pretentious of me to talk like that, but I mean, they do hire beautiful women. Then that's not you're not there posing pretty. They hate that. They are there to make sure that you look at your best. What you have to do is to concentrate, as an actress would do, and exude some sort of feeling, concentrated to something. And I told a story because I remember posing with Dick. The photographer worked differently. Some take many, many pictures, some take very little picture. And Dick takes very few photos. He stands in front of you with the camera, stares at your face like that. And he says, well, I don't like what you're thinking, change your thinking. I don't know, that thought is a little bit more interesting. Well, try something else. One day I was saying, I was very obedient, so I would change my thoughts and, think of something else. I was looking at the camera, and one day I said, does he know what I'm thinking? So I went back to a thought that I had, which I don't know, was maybe something at home, my children or something. And Dick said to me, no, I already told you, I don't like whatever you're thinking. I don't like that. I don't like that thought. Change your thought. He could read. He doesn't know what I think, but he can see the emotion. And that to me was an incredible lesson. You can see the emotion. And I think as a model, that's what you have to do. You have to exude an emotion, and you have to feel that emotion in order for you to exude it, to let it come out. A lot of work is done beforehand, So as you're working, it takes a long time to have your makeup done, your hair done, to try on the different clothes, and then the accessories, and then you pose. Then you since he often works with a very big camera, you can easily go out of focus. So you don't pose like you would do with an automatic camera, where you can really move and you do a lot of things. So you have to stay very still, because otherwise you go out of focus. So they pose you. They say, no, the shoulder a little bit like that, like that. They really compose you like a sculptor. And then once you're in that position, that's the moment for you to concentrate. Now, all the previous work that you do before will all convey an idea. As you are there, you will look at your hair, and you will look at your makeup, and you look at the jewelry, and you look at the clothes. And little by little, this persona will come to life. So you would have to follow that flow, and go and portray what everybody's contributing, your makeup artist, the hair person, the stylist, to create. I remember once I had it was a cover of Vogue, and we had a little scarf, and Dick wanted the scarf to stay up. And the scarf, since it was silk, it kept on collapsing. And I had to stay, in this, sitting on a little chair, always in the same position. And this would collapse, it would collapse. And he saw me that I was trying to perspire just because of the effort of staying alone. And he said to me, Isabella, I understand it is very hard, but God is in details. And it's true, you do build up in details what it is an image. And to me, it's even more mysterious. A lot of people say, oh, it's much more interesting to be an actress than being a model, but not for me. For me, when you do a film, you have a scene, you have the music, you have the story. It's all there to help you portray that person. When you do a photo, you have one frame, and that frame has to have the emotion, has to have an atmosphere. And it's much more mysterious how one photo works and the other doesn't work, and why is that? Always sometimes in the same sitting, you take many pictures, and then there is one that has a life and has a magic. What does it? I don't know. Is it the moment that I was most concentrated, or is the way the light hits me, or is it the way because the color is up? Who knows what it is? But at a certain point, everything works. To me, that is always the biggest mystery. When Avedon was fixing this color, my little scarf one day, it was very revealing to me. It's true. I mean, even the simplest gesture that we do, if you take your jacket and wear it like that, it so completely gives you a different persona than if you wear it like that. If you have your shirt is open or your shirt is closed, it's little details, but it's from that you build up. And I think even people that haven't been in fashion, they aren't photographers, aren't models, know that just by the way you wear your jacket, it just gives you a hint of a different person. I think that when we started to work, until I understood, I remember the day I understood I needed to act. I think at the beginning I thought I just had to be obedient, so I was very available and very obedient, and I just followed his instruction. And then I think all of a sudden, as I was waiting for whatever, a collar to stay up, pins to be, I drift off in a thought. And he said, that's interesting. See, that's interesting. So I was taken back because I thought I got distracted. I thought, oh my God, I made a mistake here. I'm drifting off. I said, really? That's interesting. He said, yes, that's interesting. Do more of that. So I went back to the thought and just didn't, and just let myself be free. So he would direct me, and if I would think of that thought and that thought would take me, then my head might turn, and he said, no, bring it back to the head, but you still are in your thought, So that changed completely the direction. I don't know if he photographed me before, because before I was just looking at him like this, just obeying. I don't know if it wasn't anything. Probably was just photographing a beautiful girl, and I don't know. Everything else conveyed the emotion, the clothing, the dramatic light, until the day that I understood just by making a mistake. And he pointed it, I thought it was a mistake, and him pointing it out and encouraging me that way. And I think that I was so lucky to work with people like Dick and other great photographers at the beginning of my career. And I attribute the fact that I had one of the longest career in modeling because of their teaching, really. Because I didn't, you always, this is almost awful to admit, but one of the last things that you are concerned when you do a fashion photography is the clothing. The clothing will always work because you can always pose and make it work. But it's the photographer. Nowadays with my agent, when he calls me and he says, this magazine wants to photograph you, I don't ask, which clothes are we photographing? I always say, which is the photographer? And that's how you build your career, the quality of your career. It's a terrible thing to say, but I really think that the fashion industry used the art of photography and brought it at their service, and they're using it. And it's not yet known, the commerciality of it is seen by the people, and the artistry of it is belittled by the fact that ultimately we are all there either selling clothes or selling cream or selling makeup. But it's the art in it that makes it gives you the image, gives you the magic, gives you the dreamy quality. Yeah, see, to me, that is always very interesting to look at a picture, because I always look at the final photo that has been chosen. You know, as you're posing and you're thinking different. I've done this photo 12 years ago, so I don't know exactly. I don't remember. I wish I would see them 2 weeks later, not to really check if I'm beautiful or not. You always take that. That they wouldn't even hire you if they don't think you're beautiful, so you don't have to think about that. You know, I would like to know what I did each photo, to know what is the thing that is effective and what isn't effective. See, Dick takes very few pictures, you know. This is one, and then immediately changes his, you know, this is, if you want, this is another picture. I mean, it's a different cut. It's true. He takes very few photos, and other photographers, they take many, many, many. I've never worked with him taking many. He always did very few. This one actually was the sitting where I understood that I had to act. I think you can see it. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. But even here, I could see that I understood it, because I not only move my hands, but there is different emotion in my face. You know, it isn't only the angle of my face that changes on my hands, that changes position. I remember the day it happened. We worked 4 days together on a big spread for American Vogue. And I think in the middle of these 2 days, it had happened. I'd done 2 like a puppet and 2 as an actress.
Does he remember that moment too?
I think he does. I don't know if he remembers it, but I did tell him, you know, several times, and probably with him more than any. I can't say with, you know, he has been such an inspiration to the new generation of photographers. That a lot of photographers are looking at his work, you know, as an homage, as an inspiration. And in his work, there is so much emotion and so much glamour that I think that they've talked to the model of the time and say, how did Dick directed you and what would the thing do? So I think that now there are more photographers that direct you like a director. But if you take a photographer like Bruce Weber, he works more like a sculptor. Bruce, though these photos sometimes are incredibly dynamic. I mean, he's done fantastic photos on sport people. I don't know if they were, I'm sure he had them posed, and yet it looks like they are just about to leap in and jump, because I've done those photos. I wasn't leaping in a jump. He just tenses you, and he really directs you like a sculptor. He says, a little bit more tension on your hand. See, this muscle, tense that one up, because that, you know, will create a nice shadow. He really is like a sculptor, you know, and then you stay there, and you stay in that position for a long time, and it's pretty hard physically, but the result, even if you stand still, the result might be very dynamic.
Does Dick direct you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he never said to me, I want you to look sad, I want you to look happy, I want to look you surprised. I think he was more observing me, and all of a sudden taking a glimpse and encouraging me in that direction. And I think it's the day that I made a mistake by drifting off, that finally an emotion came out, because he understood that I was there just being obedient, you know, just being very careful, looking at him and just, you know, just being attentive. And that was one emotion, you know, concentration and trying to listen. But that's one face, listening. And then the moment that I stopped listening to him, no, he never said to me, stop listening to me or do this, do that. I think I would have been confused. I wouldn't have understood. And he probably knew that. He was just more observing me. And also another thing is that, and that works also for film directors. And I think that there is this parody, you know, when they take photos of you that in films, when they make a scene with fashion photographers, and the fashion photographers always say to the model, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. And they all think, oh my God, this is a world of narcissists. But it isn't. It is that if you feel appreciated and loved or liked, I feel more free. I always worked better with the photographer or director that says, That's good. What you've done there. That's so interesting. That's so, like an enthusiasm. And then you do more. You want to do more than the one that said, just, then I get so intimidated and I freeze. Some people work only that way. Bill King used to be a marvelous photographer. I think I think he needed it more. He maybe didn't, he was a very kind person, but he was very formal. So he didn't know how to be warm and create a situation where you're warm and you just start by friendship bringing up emotion. So I think he irritated people. He did everything to irritate people because models mostly, because models, you learn a few tricks. You learn what is your best profile, what is the best thing. A lot of not very good photographers, they're pretty happy just photographing a pretty girl. So you just stand there and, you just do the faces. And Bill hated that. So I think he had always this big fan and he would spray little water. So you get water on your face and then this fan and the noise. At a certain point, you start looking at him with a certain anger. That's when he liked it. Because you would do the beauty because, but it's just a moment where you were still posing, your neck was long, your shoulders were back, you were beautiful, but your eyes were a little bit upset. That's the moment he took the photo. And in fact, if you look at his work, all these women, there is this kind of glamorous anger. They're frightening women. And I think he just got it by imitating them. Bill King, yes. I think Dick, because the range of his work is so enormous, I wondered if he would use that technique, if it came necessary to him. But he's a very warm person, or at least he was always very warm to me, and we always got into lots of conversations. And so I never had that experience. I never had that experience. It was all more than compliment, like, oh, it was beautiful, not that stupid. But he's like, he's very enthusiastic, isn't he? Like a young man who's, a lot of that, so he kind of also wakes you up, because he has an energy. Oh, yeah. Well, this was, it was very strange. This was Dick did a beautiful, beautiful photo of my mother. And he was looking for that photo because he wanted to photograph me, maybe holding up a photo of my mother. But he couldn't find the photo that he did, because the photo that he did, it was really fantastic. And so I think we've used some other photos that he had found. It's easy when you have to portray either an emotion or another person. And then when he has to be you and very personal, it's so much harder, isn't it? The portraits are actually the hardest to do, I guess. Not really. And I feel that this photo of me holding my mother's photo is more of a portrait. So it's really hard when people say to me, just be yourself. I don't know who myself is, or who am I? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it means. I just am, But then if you're in front of a camera and everybody stares at you, and then if you're a persona and this, they say you're this glamorous lady and you have these clothes that you would never wear because you wouldn't be able to afford them and have $4 million of jewelry, then a lot of images come to mind, and it's easier. It's easier to become someone else than being yourself, I think.
If you're thinking about the picture itself and you just pick up a book of fashion photographs, as you were in there on the edge, Martin Harrison's book, does Dick's fashion work have a signature? Is it a
yes. But I've recognized, once you're in this job, you recognize the photographer. I don't even have to read on the side of the page who has done, I can pick up any Vogue and say Avedon, Penn, Bill King, Bruce Weber, Steven Meisel, or Peter Limburg. You could, once you are in the business, if they are a good photographer, they would have a very specific signature. But only very good photographer have a very specific signature. Then there is a group of photographers that I say they just photographed a girl pretty girl, and that they can get to be blend. I mean, they're still appealing. You can still look at it and say, wow, how appealing it is. But that kind of photography to me is less interesting. That kind of, see, I'm a model. I'm in it because of the photography, essentially. Only lately I've been discovered that there is an art in the fashion. But again, unfortunately, when it comes down to it, there are very few people. I mean, it's a terrible thing. It sounds awfully snobbish, but there is a very small group of people that are of immense quality, and that they are the great masters. But again, once you are in this job and you love what you do, you recognize. You can open any magazine and I would recognize an Avedon's photo. Even sometimes if it's completely new. You can just say, could it be Avedon? And it is, because it's just, I don't know. I don't know how to tell. I don't know how I can...
Try to isolate those things. I know it's hard, but just that, go into the making of that signature.
Well, there is an energy that first of all, there is atmosphere in any photo of an excellent photographer. There is, if the photo has to be fashion or if the photo has to be cosmetic, it's a given that the girl has to be beautiful. So that's a given. You don't even look at it. If that's the only stage you get to, it's not interesting enough, right? So Avedon, you wouldn't stop at that. So that photo would have something more than just a beautiful girl. It would have an energy, it would have a mystery, it would have an whole atmosphere. And in fact, now I'm going to start talking very abstractly, but you can even kind of, if you let your mind go, you can also imagine a whole world of this woman. That photo that takes you by the hand into kind of like at the edge of an horizon and then let you dream about it. That's when you know that there is a great photographer behind. But it might be might be talking too in an abstract way. But that's the way I feel. It is something that has a life of its own. That all of a sudden I look at a photo and I say, and a whole atmosphere takes me. I can compare it sometimes when you read a very good book, and then you snap back to their own reality of your own share. Everybody had that happen, or you come out of a movie theater and you are so taken by a good performance, or that you feel like the heroine, you feel like Scarlett O'Hara. You talk a little bit like her, you move a little bit like her, That's, I think, that's what happened. A good photo would go just beyond a good fashion or cosmetic photo, would just go beyond the beauty of a girl, and it would have a whole world that it's mysterious because it's one frame, and yet you sense something that you don't have quite all the answers, but there it is. It stimulates your imagination. There is a body language, and for sure he used the body language. He used the body language. He taught us how to use, in a still photo, the body to convey an emotion. There is a hip, hands outstretched, arms, that shape creates an emotion, like an abstract painting has one line and, you feel something. The same way, I guess. I think it works that way.
Do you find yourself in modeling more than in acting, using your body to express emotion more because you don't have script and dialogue?
You do. I think you only have that. And in fact, now I'm in this new thing. I've been mostly a model. I've done photography, and lately I've been doing some runways, and I found a whole new world into just walking that corridor and going back. you can walk very differently. You can convey, and you can see, every designer will have an idea, every good designer will have an idea will have a concept behind their fashion. And your walk can help convey that idea. If your clothes are very loose and he wants your clothes, the designer wants to have a fashion that is very comfortable and very loose, well, your walk should convey that idea. And if instead it's very sexy and very structured and he wants you to be more, you have to walk in a different way. Body language, absolutely. Yesterday I was looking at a film and I was looking at Fred Astaire. Now you would think, I won't be able to step like him. But sometimes in fact, I was working today with these new designers, Dolce & Gabbana, and I was saying to them, you should look at Fred Astaire. It would be a very good idea for the runway. So obviously they're not going to hire dancers, it's going to be us still. But I think it would be, it's detail, as Avedon said. It's the way you hold your hand, your neck. Is your head back? Is the head up? It changes everything. God is in details, as he said it. And there's still more to be found as I go along. I say, oh my God, I forgot my toes. I can do that with my toes. There is so much that you can use to convey that ideas, the different ideas. Well, I always think, that that fashion and cosmetic are there to give women the armor, to overcome your shyness. I mean, often I think that's what didn't make me a model for a long time, because often to be you feel like you're a slave of a vision of a man who says the woman should be, the designer that say my woman should be that. And you just say, well, I don't know you. Who do you think you are? I'm me. But I do think that the clothing and the makeup can be like an armor for a night. It's what you wear to give yourself a little bit of protection, so that you have a little shield between you and the reality. And that shield can also be slightly a portrait of you. It could be the way you wish to be seen, but that's already a definition of yourself. And that's, one of the levels that you use as a model. You don't discard that and just show your raw soul. You don't do that, when you do modeling, it is also about appearance and allure. And so it is also the best of your shield, and you always have to have your own emotion, but have dignity. That is very important, I think. Sometimes when you act, that could be brought down, and you can see raw emotion in acting. Modeling, more rarely, it's still the industry of the shield.